You know, I'm going to start out here this morning hoping that by this time next week, major bills are in conference committee. You know, there's probably not more than a dozen bills that both all four caucuses would like to see become law. And, you know, as you know, I've been around here a long time, and we used to always talk about get home to plant corn. You know, we used to plant corn in May. Well, the federal crop insurance says we can plant corn April 11th and get it insured, so let's get home to do that. And another thing that, just a point on, we talk a lot about education in this place, and we got bills before us in education. And I probably have more grandchildren and great-grandchildren than anybody else here, and I'm so damn proud of the education that they're getting in this state. And to see that the homework they do and prepare for the future, it's just wonderful. And that's not what many of us have been hearing. Not only the last couple days, but it's been a conversation for over a year in the press about education reform. And there are a lot of things we need to reform. But, and we need to continue that in education always. But to give any kind of an impression that what we've been doing the last 10, 15 years for our young people in this state, to me, is an embarrassment. And I hope people, parents and grandparents really, when they compare what these young children are doing today compared to what was offered to them, you know, it's so anyway. We just need to get together and get these bills in conference, and that's proven last year. It's been proven in history. That's how this system works, and it'll work again. But at this point in the session, it seems to me we're in low gear. You know, so, and I assume you realize that as much as we do. So it's time to me that everybody's got to look in the mirror and step up to the plate here next week and move this process along.
We're at a point where we're kind of done with the bills we need to be done with. As you know, we all but finished education reform yesterday in the Senate, and that's a bill that we think builds on basically about a decade of work to improve education in this state, starting back in the early 2000s with Governor Vilsack. Major changes to education. So we, like I said, we've all but finished that. Senator Horn and I would say our thoughts and our prayers are with Senator Horn and his family. His daughter passed away last night. We will finish that bill on Monday, and final passage of that bill on Monday, and then we have done all of the budget bills we're supposed to do. We're ready to push the ones that we currently have in our possession to conference committee to either to take the parliamentary action that sends them to a conference committee. We're ready to do that. We've literally dealt with every budget issue that we can deal with. There are a couple bills that the House has not yet done. But I remind people that last year, 36 hours after kicking 4 bills into conference committee, we had all 4 of those bills resolved, the differences between the House and Senate. That is the process. That's what we need to get to. So starting Monday, I think, is the beginning of what we hope is the last 10 days or 2 weeks of this session, and we think we can get that done. So we're ready to do that. We're working with the governor on achieving numbers that are close to his level. We have a few areas where we disagree, but I think we're a lot closer to the governor than the governor is to the House at this point. So it's really about kind of getting finished, and that's really kind of that time. It's usually right around Easter that we always start the last move to end the session and move through the budget. So that's what we hope to get done next week, get these bills into conference committee, as Senator Kibbie says, and get moving on resolution between the House and the Senate. We'll take your questions.
For adjournment between the 16th and 20th, the week after next?
Well, I'm probably pushing on it for the 11th, but probably not going to get there, so.
Governor Bryanston today said that he'd be willing to agree to expand the earned income tax credit if he can get some commercial property tax reform. Will Democrats insist that earned income tax credits be signed before pushing ahead on property tax reform, similar to what Senator Bolton said on the floor earlier this session?
We will insist that the governor agree to sign an earned income tax bill.
But not actually sign it?
I'm not going to play games. Everybody here are people of good faith, and if I get the governor's assurance that he will sign an earned income tax credit, and we will negotiate what that is, the exact form of that, and if he agrees to it, I trust him to keep his word.
Are you getting close to an agreement on property taxes and education reform?
I would repeat what I said a couple weeks ago. There is strong bipartisan agreement on $250 million. It's in everybody's bill, $250 million out of the state treasury to relieve commercial property taxes in this state. That's all four entities have that in their bills. So I think there's common ground there. Is there common ground on the rest of it? No. But if there's $250 million on the table, it seems to me we can construct something that everybody can agree to. Maybe everybody won't like, but that everybody can agree to. There's common ground, $250 million. I think we can make a real dent in commercial property taxes this year.
And you're predicting that that agreement is going to happen sometime in the next 2 weeks?
Yes.
And you're predicting that there will be an agreement on education reform sometime in the next 2 weeks?
Yes. Same thing on education reform. Where's the common ground? Everybody agrees $10 million for robust programs to help children that are lagging in literacy skills in the early elementary grades. Everybody agrees to that. We can argue about 100 other things, and in the end, if we can't decide on those, let's take what we agree to. $10 million to make sure every kid in the early elementary grade gets the skills they need to succeed.
Any thoughts on why the traffic camera issue has become such a partisan issue? I mean, it didn't seem that way last year. It was quite split somewhat between Republicans and Democrats, but I mean, any...
Not going to speculate. That's up to the House. Pardon me?
Sorry. You take a shot at that?
Well, I voted for the ban, so I don't know that,
Well,
that it's a partisan issue.
I mean, on your side, when it advanced, I mean, only a couple of Democrats. It just seems it's lost support for the Democrats to become a partisan issue over the last...
That's actually factually not correct. About 20% of the Republican caucus voted no. About 10% of our caucus voted yes. And,
Okay. Wow.
so.
Are we going to see a repeat in the House and in the Senate on what happened last year with the Health and Human Services budget becoming an abortion debate?
I don't think we know at this point. We have not seen their bill yet. That's one of the bills we're waiting on.
I agree with everything Senator Gronstal said earlier about, from their perspective, negotiating in good faith. From our perspective as House Democrats, we came to work this week, we came to work today, ready to work towards shutdown, work towards compromise. We were told yesterday to be prepared to debate mental health redesign and potentially the TIF bill on the House side, two big bills. We were told today that Republicans would largely just need to caucus all day, and we may or may not even debate a non-con bill this afternoon. If we do, there'll be two non-con bills, and another week will go by without positive movement on the House side. I don't know what all they're caucusing on in private. I suspect one of the things they're caucusing on is the HHS budget. And there's very clearly some strain in their caucus on some of these issues, but I'm not a member of their caucus, and you'd have to ask them on why we haven't even started the HHS budget. You can't even send that to conference until we at least pass it out of the first chamber. That will likely be a 6 to 8 hour debate when we do that. It's not even on the calendar to make it eligible for debate yet, so yeah, don't know.
Senator, what is the future of red light cameras over here?
I believe it was sent to Transportation Committee. So I think that I think that, I think it's unlikely it comes out, but obviously talk to the transportation folks. I think it's probably effectively funneled, so, but I don't know that.
And behind the scenes, has there been any talk about just procedures after a couple days ago with events on the house side, just as far as security and stuff, or is that something you'll leave in between sessions, or as far as security and things like that?
I'll answer the first question. Yes.
Anything more you want to do, or?
Nope. I think people are going to appropriately do a review of what the procedures and process was. I think it's important to remember that in a civil society, an attack on somebody's free speech and basically a threat that they'll be murdered is an incredibly inappropriate thing, and we want to make sure that, more than worrying about our procedures, we want to make sure that we do our best to catch people that level those kinds of threats.
Are you satisfied with the way it was handled the other day?
I said, I think his question was, is there discussion about a possible review of those kinds of issues, and that discussion is going to happen, yes. So I'm not going to talk about whether we're satisfied or not. We're going to take what lessons we can learn from this and try and make sure our responses are appropriate. And I don't think there's enough information yet to really comment on that. I don't think it'd be appropriate to comment.
Kevin, you were a little closer to the incident. Your thoughts on how it was handled?
I think this issue should not be partisan, so I'm not going to make any partisan comments on it. I think that we as legislators need to be better aware of how to handle situations like this. Hopefully it never happens again, but if it does, we need to be better aware on how to handle the situation, and so does every other entity that would be involved in the handling of the situation. So I think the idea is to move forward and learn from it and do a better job.
Whenever we ask the speaker or tell him that you indicated that there's common ground on $250 million for property taxes, he always says that's news to him, that he's not heard that.
Well, it's in his bill. Perhaps he hasn't read his bill, but it's in his bill, $250 million to reimburse local governments for lost revenue when we change things in the property tax system.
And then he says, they sent you that bill, they're waiting for you to do something with it.
And as I've indicated to both he and the governor, we're ready, willing, and able to work with them to come to an agreement on where our common ground is, and we're anxious to do that. If we can't get to common ground, which I think would be a sad, sad mistake, but if we can't get to common ground on it, we'll pass a bill. I'm not into passing bills. I'm into accomplishing policy, and that involves people of good faith sitting down together and looking for common ground.
Are you going to take up that lead shot nullification?
Decision hasn't been made yet.
What's the hang-up there? I mean, that's been on the calendar.
The hang-up is the decision hasn't been made yet.
So, Gronstal, in connection with Representative somebody called that an attack on free speech, are you aware of something specific that
It seems to me the indications are the letter came and was a threat relative to a state representative's position on some issues, and that's what the threat was based on, and that is just incredibly wrong in a democratic society. And that's why I think the most important thing is to attempt to find people that have taken this action.
It seems like for the past 2 or 3 weeks, you guys have been talking about getting bills in the conference committees, and yet here we are again today. You're still talking about that.
Well, I've talked about it here, and I've talked about it with Representative Paulson. And listen, we're trying to work together, and I understand we occasionally have trouble on a few bills in our caucus and some divisions, and sometimes it's hard to reach resolution. And so we're offering to be helpful if we can be helpful. If it would make sense for us to start a bill rather than bills that they're scheduled to start, we're certainly open to trying to do that. We'll work with Speaker Paulson, and like I say, but it's time. It's past time to move these bills to conference committee.
Representative McCarthy, what's
No, we're ready to debate it. The Republicans clearly have not come to consensus in their caucus on what should be in it. This is a House Republican issue. You'd have to ask them what their concerns are. We're ready to debate all the bills.
Thank you, everybody.